All right, get ready because today we're taking a deep dive into something really amazing, the GenomeIndia project. It's making headlines everywhere, and for good reason.
What's really exciting is that India now has this massive genomic data set. It's like a treasure trove of information telling us all about the genes that make up its incredibly diverse population.
And we're not just skimming the surface here. We've got press releases, scientific reports, you name it.
Yeah, it's a pretty impressive collection.
It really is. So, GenomeIndia, for those who haven't heard, it's a huge research project that set out to, well, sequence the genomes of a lot of people, over 10,000 Indians from all different backgrounds.
It's like creating a genetic map of an entire nation.
And hold on tight, because just from the initial analysis, they've uncovered millions of genetic variations that are completely new to science. It's like finding hidden clues about India's unique history, and it's all right there in our DNA.
And that brings up a big question. How does this affect you, the listener? Imagine a world where medicine is tailored just for you, based on your genes. That's the potential of personalized medicine, and Genome India is bringing us closer to that reality.
But wait, there's more. This project has implications far beyond healthcare. It could change everything from how we grow our food to how we understand our environment.
It's pretty mind-blowing stuff.
It really is. And of course, with any powerful tool, there are things to consider. We'll also look at how India is making sure all this data is shared in a responsible and transparent way. But first, let's start with the basics. What exactly are genomes, and why should we even care about them?
Well, it's easy to get lost in all the science-y terms, right? So think of your genome as your own personal instruction manual, written in the language of DNA. It's basically what makes you, you.
That's a great analogy. So, like instruction manuals, genomes can have slightly different versions, right?
Exactly. And those tiny variations can have a big impact. They can influence everything from your eye color and height to your risk of getting certain diseases, and even how your body reacts to certain medications.
So, understanding these variations is like unlocking a whole new level of self-knowledge. It's powerful stuff.
Absolutely. And that's where Genome in India comes in. It's incredibly ambitious. They aimed to sequence 10,000 genomes and brought together over 20 institutions across India to do it.
It's a massive team effort.
Yeah.
They even created a national biobank to store all this genetic information.
Right. It's a secure way to keep all this valuable data safe.
Okay, so walk me through the process. How do they actually go about sequencing these genomes?
It all starts with collecting blood samples from people representing all sorts of different ethnic groups. In fact, they managed to get samples from 99 different groups.
99, that's amazing.
Yeah, it's a Greek representation of India's diversity.
Yeah.
And once they have those samples, they use cutting-edge technology to sequence the DNA, basically reading billions of letters in a person's genetic code.
Wow, that's mind-boggling. It must be a huge data challenge.
It is. And after sequencing comes the really exciting part: analysis. Scientists use powerful computers to sift through all that data, looking for patterns and variations that could hold the key to understanding our health, our history, and maybe even our future.
And speaking of discoveries, one of the biggest wow moments was finding millions of genetic variations that were completely new to science.
It just goes to show how unique the Indian population is. A lot of what we know about genetics comes from studying other populations, and it doesn't always apply to us.
Hold on, so you're saying that a lot of the genetic research out there might not be relevant to people in India?
Exactly. And that's why Genome India is so important. It's paving the way for personalized medicine by helping us understand how our unique genetic variations affect our health.
I see. So this is about getting a clearer picture of what makes Indian genetics unique.
Absolutely.
Okay, I'm starting to see why everyone's so excited about this, but can you give me a specific example? How would this personalized medicine actually work in practice?
Sure, let's take the example of the LDLR gene. The analysis found some new variations in this gene that are linked to familial hypercholesterolemia. It's basically a condition that causes high cholesterol that runs in families, and it's unfortunately pretty common in India.
So with this new information, doctors could potentially identify people who are at risk before they even develop serious problems. That's amazing.
Exactly. Early diagnosis could lead to lifestyle changes or medication that could prevent heart attacks or strokes down the line. It's all about being proactive.
Wow, that's incredible. But what about other conditions? Is this the only gene they're looking at?
Oh, not at all. They found a ton of information about potentially harmful variations in a bunch of other genes. We're talking about genes that could increase the risk of things like breast cancer and heart conditions.
So they can potentially predict a person's risk for a whole range of serious diseases just by looking at their genes? That's both incredible and a little bit scary, isn't it?
It definitely makes you think. But think about the possibilities. Imagine being able to identify those risks early on and taking steps to prevent those diseases or at least manage them more effectively.
That makes sense. It's about taking control of your health. But I have another question. How do our genes affect the medicines we take?
That's a great question. And it leads us to a fascinating field called pharmacogenomics.
Pharmaco what? Okay, you're going to have to break that down for me.
It's simpler than it sounds. Pharmacogenomics is all about how your genes can affect how you respond to medications, like a personalized medicine instruction manual.
Okay, I'm starting to get it. So that means that a drug that works well for one person might not work as well for another, or even cause side effects because of their genes.
Exactly. And GenomeIndia found that certain genetic variations that are common in Indian populations could actually affect how well some very common medications work. Things like blood thinners, antiretroviral drugs, even some antivirals.
So this information could help doctors prescribe the right medication at the right dose, specifically based on your genes.
Precisely. It's all about making treatments more precise and effective for each person.
Okay, I'm really starting to see the potential here. This is all so fascinating. It feels like we're just scratching the surface of what Genome India can do. But I'm curious, how does this project fit into India's overall goals in science and technology? Where does it all lead?
That's a great question. To really understand the impact of this project, we need to step back and see the bigger picture.
Okay, I'm ready. Let's zoom out a bit.
This isn't just about healthcare. It's about understanding our origins, our diversity, and our potential as a species. Remember how we talked about India having this unique genetic history? Well, this project is shedding light on that history.
So we're using our DNA to piece together the story of our past.
Exactly. It's revealing ancient migration patterns, the mixing of different populations over time, and even how people adapted to different environments over thousands of years. And this knowledge isn't just for history buffs.
You know, I was just thinking, could this information be useful in other fields too, like agriculture? Could it help us grow food more effectively?
You're exactly right. Understanding the genetic diversity of crops can help us develop new varieties that are more resilient to diseases, droughts, or even pests.
It's like we're using the power of genetics to feed a nation.
Exactly. It's a huge opportunity, especially with the challenges of climate change and a growing population.
So we've got healthcare, agriculture. What other areas could benefit from this kind of research?
Well, one exciting area is the development of something called genomic chips, made specifically for the Indian population.
Hold on, genomic chips. What are those?
Think of them as tiny microchips, like supercomputers, but for DNA analysis. They can help us analyze genetic information much faster and much cheaper.
So you're saying these chips could lead to cheaper and faster diagnoses, maybe even new treatments.
That's the idea. These chips could revolutionize everything from healthcare to research, making genetic technology more accessible to everyone.
This all sounds incredibly promising, but I can't help but think about all this sensitive genetic information. Are there concerns about privacy and how all this data will be used?
You bring up a very important point. With any powerful technology, there's a responsibility to use it ethically, especially when it comes to something as personal as our genes.
So how is India addressing those concerns? What's being done to protect people's privacy?
That's a key part of this whole project. India has been proactive in setting clear guidelines and protocols for sharing this data ethically. They've created the Indian Biological Data Center, or IBDC, to act as a guardian for all this genomic data.
So the IBDC is like a secure vault for all this information, but what about researchers who need access to the data? How do they get in?
The IBDC grants secure access to researchers worldwide, but it's not a free-for-all. There are strict safeguards in place to protect the privacy and confidentiality of the people who participated in the study. They've developed these specific protocols called the Framework for Exchange of Data, or FEED, which are part of much larger guidelines.
So it's like a carefully guarded library with rules about who can access the information and how they can use it.
Exactly. These guidelines ensure that the data is only used for legitimate research purposes and that people's identities are protected. It's all about finding the right balance between scientific progress and respecting individual privacy.
I'm glad to hear that. So I've talked about the science, the discoveries, and even the ethical considerations, but what about the bigger picture? How does Genome India fit into India's journey in the world of biotech?
That's a fantastic question, and the answer is simple. GenomeIndia is a game changer. It's propelled India to the forefront of the global bioeconomy.
Hold on, bioeconomy. That sounds important. What exactly does that mean?
Think of it as the part of the economy that uses biological resources to create products and services. We're talking healthcare, agriculture, even renewable energy. It's a rapidly growing field.
Wow. And you're saying that GenomeIndia is putting India on the map in this field.
Absolutely. Under Prime Minister Modi, India has taken significant steps to become a global leader in biotech. They've implemented a new bioeconomy policy, attracted tons of investment, and fostered a thriving startup ecosystem.
I did hear that India is already the world's largest vaccine producer, so they're building on a strong foundation.
Exactly. And GenomeIndia is really solidifying that leadership. It's attracting top talent, encouraging innovation, and creating new opportunities for economic growth. It's not just about science, it's about building a brighter future for India.
This is all incredibly exciting. It feels like we're witnessing a pivotal moment in India's scientific journey. But with all this progress, I can't help but wonder what's next. What does the future hold for GenomeIndia?
That's where things get really interesting. Well, remember how we talked about sequencing 10,000 genomes? Well, that was just the beginning.
Wait, there's more?
Oh, yeah. The government's actually announced plans to sequence a mind-blowing 10 million genomes.
10 million! Whoa, that's a huge GE jump. But I have to ask, what's the point of sequencing that many? Will it really make a difference for the average person?
That's a great question, and that's where things get really exciting. Think about it. Imagine going to the doctor for a regular checkup, and they do a quick genetic test, just like they check your blood pressure.
So, like, it becomes a routine part of healthcare.
Exactly. And based on your results, the doctor can give you personalized advice, suggest lifestyle changes, or even recommend early interventions to help reduce your risk for certain diseases before they even show up.
So it's not just about treating diseases, it's about stopping them before they even start.
Exactly. It's a shift from reactive healthcare to proactive, preventative care.
That sounds amazing. But let's be realistic, genetic testing can be expensive. How would this kind of personalized healthcare be accessible to everyone in India?
That's a valid concern. But here's the good news. The cost of genetic sequencing has been dropping rapidly.
That's good to hear. But still, India has a huge population, and not everyone can afford these kinds of tests. How do we make sure everyone benefits, regardless of their financial situation?
It's going to require a team effort. The government, healthcare providers, and even private companies all need to work together to make this technology affordable and available to everyone in India.
So we're talking about things like government subsidies or insurance coverage for genetic testing, maybe even public awareness campaigns to educate people about the benefits.
Exactly. It's about making this technology a fundamental part of our healthcare system so that no matter who you are or where you live, you have the opportunity to benefit from these advances. It's about creating a future where healthcare is truly personalized, preventative, and accessible to all.
Now that's a vision worth striving for. But for now, let's step back and focus on what Genome India has already revealed about the Indian population.
You're right. It's easy to get caught up in the future, but the present findings are already groundbreaking.
Okay, remind me, why is this project so important for understanding the genetics of the Indian population?
For decades, genetic research has primarily focused on people of European descent.
Ah,
And that's created a sort of bias in our understanding of genetics because the findings from those studies might not apply to other populations, like those in India.
so using that data to understand Indian genetics would be like using a map of London to navigate Delhi. It just wouldn't work.
That's a great analogy. GenomeIndia is changing that by creating a data set that truly reflects the genetic diversity of India. And this diversity is crucial because it impacts everything from our susceptibility to diseases to how we respond to medications.
So GenomeIndia is giving us a more accurate picture of Indian genetics.
Absolutely.
Okay, that makes sense. Are there any specific diseases that GenomeIndia is shedding light on that are particularly relevant to the Indian context?
Definitely. Remember we talked about the variations found in the LDLR gene.
The one linked to familial hypercholesterolemia.
That's the one. And it's a big deal because high cholesterol, especially the kind that runs in families, is often underdiagnosed and undertreated in India, which can lead to an increased risk of heart attacks and strokes.
So with this genetic information, we can identify those at risk and hopefully prevent those serious health problems.
Exactly. Early diagnosis can lead to lifestyle changes, medication, or other interventions that can make a huge difference.
It's like having a personalized health forecast that lets you take control of your future.
In a way, yes. But remember, genes are not destiny. Our lifestyle choices and environment also play a big role.
Right. It's not about living in fear of your genes. It's about using this knowledge to make informed choices.
Precisely. GenomeIndia is equipping millions of people in India with the information they need to understand their health risks and take proactive steps to live healthier lives.
That's empowering. But I can't help but wonder about data security and privacy. With so much personal genetic information being collected, how can we be absolutely sure it's being handled responsibly?
That's a crucial question, and the GenomeIndia team has been incredibly careful from the beginning. They have strict ethical guidelines and data sharing protocols in place to ensure that everyone's privacy is protected.
Okay, that's good to know. Can you remind me how those safeguards work?
Of course. So all the data is stored in the Indian Biological Data Center, or IBDC. Think of it as a high-security vault for genomic data. It's designed to prevent any unauthorized access.
So it's not like just anyone can access this information.
Not at all. They have top-notch security measures like encryption and firewalls. And to add another layer of protection, they anonymize the data, which means they remove any personal identifiers to safeguard the privacy of the participants.
So it's like a carefully guarded library with very strict rules about who can see the books.
Exactly. Only authorized researchers with legitimate research goals can access the data, and even then, they have to follow strict guidelines about how they can use it.
Well, that definitely puts my mind at ease knowing that they're taking data privacy seriously. But let's switch gears for a moment. You mentioned earlier that Genome India has implications beyond just healthcare. What are some other areas where this research could have a major impact?
One area I'm particularly excited about is environmental science. Genomics can help us understand biodiversity in a whole new way, which is essential given the environmental challenges our planet is facing.
Okay, I'm intrigued. How can genomics help us protect our environment?
Imagine using genomics to track the migration patterns of different species, identify populations that are at risk of extinction, and develop strategies for conservation.
So it's like using genetics to monitor the health of entire ecosystems.
Exactly. And with the threats of climate change and habitat destruction, this information is crucial for effective conservation efforts.
That's amazing. But can we also use genomics to actively clean up pollution?
You bet. It's already happening through something called bioremediation, which uses organisms like bacteria or fungi to clean up pollutants. And by understanding the genes that control these processes, we can make them even more effective.
It's incredible to think that we can use the power of nature, with a little help from genomics, to heal our planet.
And with its focus on Indian biodiversity, GenomeIndia could play a vital role in developing solutions for the unique environmental challenges facing the country.
This is all so inspiring. It feels like we've only scratched the surface of what genomics can do. But before we wrap up, I want to touch on another exciting application you mentioned, forensics.
Oh, yes. Forensics is an area where genomics is already having a huge impact. DNA profiling has revolutionized crime scene investigation.
Yeah, it seems like those DNA tests are the gold standard these days.
For good reason. They can help identify suspects, connect individuals to crime scenes, and even exonerate innocent people who were wrongly convicted. And as technology improves, these tests are becoming even more sensitive and accurate.
That's pretty amazing.
It really is. And with its vast database of genetic information from diverse Indian populations, GenomeIndia could be a game changer for forensic science in this country.
It's like having a genetic fingerprint to help solve crimes and ensure justice is served.
It's a powerful tool, but we have to remember that forensic science is about more than just technology. It's about using science responsibly and ethically to seek truth and justice.
Well said. This deep dive into Genome India has been incredibly eye-opening. We've explored its potential in healthcare, agriculture, environmental science, and even forensics. But before we move on, let's take a moment to recap the key takeaways from this part of our discussion.
I agree. It's good to pause and see the big picture. So let's remind ourselves what we've learned about this remarkable project.
Genome India is a truly pioneering initiative. It has sequenced the genomes of over 10,000 Indians from various ethnic backgrounds, giving us valuable insights into the genetic diversity of this nation.
And these findings have implications that go far beyond just healthcare. They're shaping the future of fields like agriculture, environmental science, and forensics, paving the way for exciting new discoveries and innovations.
We discussed the potential of personalized medicine, where treatments can be tailored to an individual's unique genetic makeup, offering the promise of better outcomes and fewer side effects.
And we also delves into the ethical considerations surrounding the use of this data, highlighting how India is prioritizing responsible and transparent data management through the IBDC and its strict protocols.
Genome India is not just a scientific endeavor, it's a testament to India's growing leadership in the global bioeconomy and its commitment to leveraging science and technology to improve the lives of its people.
It's a journey of self-discovery, a quest to understand ourselves better and unlock the secrets of our shared human heritage.
With the ambitious goal of sequencing 10 million genomes in the future, this is just the beginning of an incredible journey. The possibilities are truly endless. It's amazing to think about all the ground we've covered in this deep dive into Genome in India, from the science behind it to the potential impact it could have.
Yeah, it's truly impressive what they're doing, and it makes you realize how much potential there is when we focus on understanding ourselves better.
Absolutely. But as with any big project like this, there are always challenges, things we need to think about as this project moves forward.
You're right. It's easy to get caught up in all the exciting possibilities, but we have to be realistic and consider the potential roadblocks too.
Okay, so what are some of the biggest challenges that you see coming up as Genome India continues to grow?
Well, one of the most important challenges is ensuring that everyone benefits from this research. India has a huge population, and not everyone has equal access to healthcare or even basic information about genetics.
That makes sense. How can we make sure that things like personalized medicine and genetic testing are available to everyone, not just a select few?
It's a big question, and it'll take a multi-pronged approach. First, we need to make sure that healthcare infrastructure is strong throughout the country, especially in rural and underserved areas.
Right, because what good is all this genetic information if people don't have access to doctors and hospitals?
Exactly. We need a healthcare system that's equipped to actually use the insights from Genome India. That means training healthcare professionals, integrating genetic testing into routine care, and making sure genetic counseling services are available and affordable.
It sounds like it's going to take a lot of work to make sure everyone benefits.
It will, but it's essential. We also need to educate people about the benefits of genetic testing and personalized medicine, clear up any misconceptions, and empower individuals to make informed decisions about their own health.
So it's about more than just the science. It's about access, education, and making sure everyone is included.
Exactly. And then there's the question of data privacy and security. We talked about the safeguards they have in place, but technology is constantly evolving. So are the risks. How do we protect this sensitive information long term?
It sounds like a moving target.
It is. We have to constantly adapt and improve our security measures. But it's not just about the technology itself. We also need to foster a culture of responsibility and ethical data handling, both in the scientific community and among the general public.
So it's about building trust, transparency, and a shared understanding of how important it is to protect this information.
Exactly.
Now, I'm curious about what people in India are thinking about all this. Are they excited about genome media? Worried? A bit of both.
Probably a mix of all those things,
Yeah.
which is pretty normal when you have new technology with this much potential impact. There's definitely excitement about the possibilities of personalized medicine, better disease prediction, and more effective treatments.
I can definitely see why people would be excited about that.
Of course. But there are also legitimate concerns about things like data privacy, potential discrimination based on genetic information, and the ethical implications of widespread genetic testing.
Those are valid concerns. How can we make sure these issues are talked about openly and addressed in a way that involves everyone, not just scientists and policymakers?
That's a great point. We need to have open and honest discussions about these issues, involving not just the experts, but the public too. Build trust, address concerns head on, and make sure that everyone benefits from this research.
It sounds like a big task.
It is, but it's a crucial one.
Well, this has been an incredible deep dive into GenomeIndia. We've explored the science, the potential benefits, and the challenges.
It's been a fascinating conversation.
And to our listener, we hope this deep dive has sparked your interest in this groundbreaking project and maybe even inspired you to learn more about the world of genomics.
Absolutely. There's so much more to discover. Keep asking questions, keep learning, and stay curious.
GenomeIndia is a reminder that science is about more than just data and technology. It's about understanding ourselves, our past, and our potential to create a healthier and more equitable world for everyone.
Well said.
Thanks for joining us on this incredible journey. We'll see you next time on The Deep Dive.